Staying together for the kids, pros and cons. My name is Paul Friedman. I founded the Marriage Foundation, and I'd like to share something with you right off the bat. And that is that, one, you're still hopeful that you can hold the marriage together. And that's why you're looking for what is basically an excuse to stay together, and that is for the sake of the kids. As it turns out, for the sake of the kids is huge, because virtually every study done since the 50s shows decisively, definitively, that when parents get a divorce, the kids are tremendously impacted. Now, there are always some minor differences, but for the most part, huge part, the kids will not be the same. And the reason why they won't be the same is pretty logical if you think about it. Children come into the world 100% with no capacity to take care of themselves. None. Zero. 100% reliance on the team, which is their mother and father. And I know that therapists these days say, well, it just means separate homes, and yeah, it's inconvenient, and it's not as good for the kids, but imagine you. Imagine, and I use this illustration all the time because it's a great one, but a friend of mine brought it to my attention many years ago when I was a divorce mediator. And a judge brought it to his attention. He was another divorce mediator. And the judge said, imagine going to a planet with two bodyguards who turn on each other. And this is the case for the kids. They're 100% dependent on you, both. You split up, their whole world falls apart. You know, it's just two of you. And the battle that you have during a divorce, everyone says, no, we're not going to go through that battle, but you do. You end up having tremendous pain, tremendous anxiety, and you know what? The kids aren't the only ones impacted by your getting a divorce. So are you, and so is your spouse. It's huge. Think about it, that you got married. It was the biggest decision of your life, period. And it was the wrong decision. So my approach to you in this video is that the cons are, you can't even quantify them, how many negatives there are. The positives, there's so few. I can't think of one positive other than there aren't any. There's no positives for the kids. So what you're really asking is, and I know this is what you meant, is how can I stay together in this marriage? What can we possibly do to save this marriage? Isn't that the question you want to ask? And for that, and I've done a lot of research on this, a lot of studying, and I had to avoid all of Western psychology's ideas because they don't work. And I started to discover principles of marriage that are essential to know. And I begin with the principle of why did you get married in the first place? And the principle basically is that the reason why you do something determines how you behave in the process of doing that thing. You get a boat, and you want to go out on the lake, and you want to go to the other side. You got a boat to convey to the other side. What do? You don't get in the boat without any training whatsoever. But if you do, what's going to happen? You'll pick up the oars and you'll go crazy. But if you got trained in how to row a boat, or if it's a small sailboat, how to sail a boat, you might struggle a little, but because you know that you want to get to the other side, and you've learned at least some of the basics of boating, you will get to the other side. And by the time you do, you'll probably have a good time of it. But you didn't do any of that for marriage. In fact, you didn't even come up with why you're getting married. No one does. When I asked people who would come to me back in the early days, why did you get married? The best answers that I got were not really answers. They were answers like, well, I wanted to have kids. I wanted to be with someone in my old age. I wanted to be with my soulmate. Okay, but that's a very sort of not proactive. So I had to discover why people got married. So don't laugh when I tell you why you got married. And by now you're thinking already, why did I get married? You got married to be happier. Of course. That's why people get married. They don't get married so they could have a wedding day. They get married, you got married to be happier. And I'm going to add to that. I'm going to say that you got married to be happier every single day of your lives. Didn't you? Or did you get married so just to have children? I don't think so. The other reason for getting married, and all this is going back to the pros and cons, because the biggest thing that you should consider is, how do we make our marriage work again? Or maybe for the first time. So you got married to be happier, but you also got married for something that, I don't know why, it seems to escape us, but we get married so that we could experience unconditional love. Now you may say, well, love is good enough, but why settle? You got married to experience unconditional love, because that's the kind that you felt like during that moment. Everyone has this experience at a wedding when everyone feels this, whoa, isn't it true? Your heart just bursts open. It's so tangible. You can't see it, touch it, smell it, taste it. So it's not a physiological tangible. It's a tangible of the soul. You got married to experience unconditional love. And it's well within your reach even now. So the thing to do is shift right now. Just shift your thinking. And instead of looking for excuses to stay together, reasons to stay together, how about this? How about learning how to be married so you can have that which you originally wanted? Now, I've written a couple of books that really spell out marriage. And man, we get some amazing feedback from people about this. I got so many emails that our counselors send up to me from people whose lives have been changed. You know, you can write into our counselors if you need some extra guidance. It's a free service at the Marriage Foundation. But we've had people who have been married for 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years. Recently, we got an email from a reverend who said, I came across your material, I want to be a counselor. I've never had this experience with my wife before. And I've been married for, I don't remember, it was close to 50 years. And it was a pastor. And so, relying on fundamental principles to manage your marriage correctly, there's nothing wrong with that idea, because it will help you to achieve the reason you got married. You got to know how. You got to know how marriage works. You got to know how you work. You got to know how your spouse works. You have to know these things in order to have a successful marriage. You've got the power. You've got the power. We're not taught this stuff as children because there's this running away from religion, and it turns into running away from all things spiritual, ignoring the fact that we are spiritual beings. We're souls who have a body and have a mind. And again, I'm not trying to be religious, it's just the reality. The proof of that is you experience love. I know the psychologists come up with these preposterous chemical things, but they're putting the cart before the horse. They're saying it's the chemical thing that causes the experience of love, but it's the other way around. The experience of love is what releases the chemicals into the body because the soul predominates. So as a soul, you're literally driven to evolve into a loving state of consciousness, and there's no better vehicle than marriage to learn how to do that. But if you don't learn how to learn how, you'll be chasing your tail. So, if you're already at this place where you're defining whether you get a divorce or not, you've gone very far downhill. And it's time to stop the momentum. And it's not enough now, unfortunately, just to learn these things. Now you need to have someone or something, and we produce courses, one for men and one for women, for people who are in free fall, to bring you back and get you on the right path of marriage. And this is not to save your marriage. You can do that. You can plow through. For the sake of your kids, you can do that. And you want to do that because of who you are. But I say don't do that. Instead, work on the marriage. And it's not so hard when you know how. Get your marriage working, and you'll have it all. Your kids will be safe, secure, they'll turn into wonderful adults, and you and your spouse will be on cloud nine from the joys of marriage. So, the course for men, if you're a man, the course for women, if you're the wife, course for both of you, if you're both on the same page. But go there. Go there. You deserve it. Don't become a statistic. Don't become depressed and demoralized because you failed. Instead, learn, get some help, and turn your marriage into what it was meant to be right from the beginning. Makes me very happy when we receive emails, and we've been doing this for almost 20 years, when we receive emails from people whose lives have changed so much. One of my first clients, I'm going to call her Joy. I invented that name. I used to get a card from her every 6 months. And her husband came to me 2 years after she did. But they turned their marriage around. And I met her at Second Saturday support group for divorce. I used to speak at those. And she was so grateful, and still is. I recently got another letter from her, 3 or 4 page letter. And she and her husband are doing great still. And most importantly, they do better every day, which is what it's all about. You have no idea. Do you remember when you first fell in love and you couldn't wait to see each other? That feeling is supposed to get stronger. It's supposed to be hard to be apart from one another. You're supposed to have that. And in our world, they call that romantic. I call it realistic. You deserve it. You can have it. You should have it. Go for it. I'm going to leave you with those thoughts. The last word on this pros and cons for the children is there's no pros. There's no pros. Oh, of course, in the event of someone being incredibly abusive, there might be some pro, but those cases are much more rare than you have been led to believe. You know, the news is all about exploiting the weird so that we think it's the normal. So I'm sure in your case, it's not like that. And so don't go there. Instead, go to make your marriage what it's meant to be. Share this video, subscribe to the channel so you get more of them, and have a positive view of what is possible. You know, I mentioned we're souls. Think about what that means. We're these infinite beings. And we only limit ourselves. But when you learn how to love unconditionally, then you're living in that space that you are meant to live in. And it's wonderful. All right. God bless. Thank you for spending time with me, and take care.